Hello and welcome to Benson's Pen and Stationery Boutique. We here at Benson's offer all manner of writing utensils, stationery, and of course, notary services. Now, normally I ask our customers which area they're interested in, if they're coming in for writing utensil, if they're coming in for some stationery, to get documents notarized or officialized. But, seeing as you darted right over to our pen section and selection, I am going to take perhaps a wild guess and assume that you're in the market for a new pen. Is this correct? Wonderful. Now, when it comes to writing utensils, the most important piece of information that we as professionals can obtain is what you're going to be using the pen for. This is going to define most of the recommendations that I'm going to give you, as well as really start to formalize in your mind, as well as in mine, the purpose for writing. Okay? So if you don't mind, how are you going to be using your new pen? Okay. I see. Okay. So, for signing documents, but mostly for kind of that day-to-day note-taking, with a bit of sophistication, if that sounds correct. Not the scribbling on perhaps a sticky note or just a scrap piece of paper, but deliberate, formal note-taking, in addition to, as I previously mentioned, that signing of documents. Okay. Perfect. Do you have a particular writing utensil in mind? Color of ink, mechanism, perhaps? Okay. In that case, since you are rather open-minded, which I do appreciate, allow me to make a quick recommendation. Many people, before they stop into our shop, see the window display or shop online a bit to get an idea of our wares, and see our impressive collection of fountain pens, and become somewhat fixated on that as their desired writing tool. This is perhaps not the recommended course of action. Fountain pens are incredible for a deliberate, purposeful writing experience, but less convenient and easy to use than perhaps a ballpoint or gel pen. For your instance, since you'll be taking what I imagine to be quite extensive notes and, of course, creating a signature that is, in an ideal situation, consistent from one document to the next, I would not recommend a fountain pen. Fountain pens tend to be quite an expressive writing utensil. That is, how you are feeling that day can largely affect the quality and the character of the writing. So, for example, if you're in a rather hurried mood and we're just jotting down a few quick notes, this would be reflected by the fountain pen. It would be less consistent, a little bit thinner, and it may skip at points, depending on the quality of the pen itself. This is not to say that fountain pens are inherently flawed in any fashion. Their beautiful, unique construction lends them to be ideal for journaling, for writing as a pastime rather than a profession, and in general, just making the document feel a little bit more personalized. But since you are here as a professional and are seeking a tool that's going to help you kind of maintain that professional look, character, we want to select something that's a little bit more utilitarian than a fountain pen. Not to say that we're going to be gravitating towards cheaper or more manufactured options, but just to say that perhaps you won't be looking at that one of one $300 fountain pen that might not serve your needs in the best way. All that to say that we have a wondrous variety of ballpoint pen and ballpoint pens of both gel and ink variety that I think will be better to serve you. They're a little bit more consistent. They also have certain fraud protections, waterproofing built into the ink and mechanisms themselves, so they're going to be just that touch of professionalism to your writing, okay? Perfect. In that case, I will run you through a few of our options. None of the first few initial pens which I'll be showing you are going to be particularly expensive. That being said, they are all of very high quality. So if you would like to make a bulk order of them, if you find one that is to your liking, this will certainly be something that you can do. Whereas with a fountain pen, it's kind of what you see is what you get, and there's a one of one available. First, let's start off with a few gel pens. Now, back in the day, gel pens were somewhat unfortunately the clear runner-up to traditional ink pens. This is because when they were introduced and became popular in kind of the late 90s, early 2000s, the technology hadn't quite caught up with the ambition, and the gel itself was somewhat chemically flawed. It had a nasty habit of coagulating and congealing when left just to sit for a little bit of time, and it wasn't as consistent. Gel pens tended to skip when writing, which is obviously not ideal for any sort of professional document, causing the writer to have to kind of go back and fix those inconsistencies, and they weren't as smooth of a writing experience. However, 20 years later, the technology has very much so caught up with the initial design and the philosophy of gel pens. They're now comparable, if not superior to, certain ink pens, and they're considerably more cost-effective. You can order a great deal, many gel pens, without worrying about spoilage, leakage, any sort of defections from the ballpoint itself, whereas ink pens tend to be a little bit more particular. If you were to sample 50 gel pens and 50 ink pens, you would undoubtedly find a few more inconsistencies with the ink pens. Now, that would be for a bulk order. For your purposes, since you're just purchasing one, two, or a few today, and then going to be testing them out, I imagine, throughout your average work day and work week, we of course test all of the pens before we put them on our shelf for our customer. So bulk orders, they're coming more directly from the factory, so we do of course do testing and sampling, but we're not able to test every single pen. In the case of these individual orders, all of these pens have been quality assured. Let's start off with the Energel. This pen is kind of a standard 7mm pen, blue ink. I'm not sure, do you prefer blue or black? Either or, okay. Wonderful. Very comfortable, light, easy to use, silicone grip here. A tad bit bulky, but still very comfortable to use. Not a pen that you're going to be able to easily misplace. It does have the press trigger in order to release the actual writing mechanism. This is a ballpoint gel pen, and it protects against fraud. The ink is waterproof, and it is archival tested and approved, which is to say that it's not going to fade or degrade over time. So, if you were to write something today and then stick it in a safe or locker for the next 20 years, you would be able to pull it out, and barring that you have selected high quality paper that will not degrade, the ink itself will look just as new as the day that you wrote it down. Very high quality, very cost effective. This is the cheapest option with kind of the fewest bells and whistles. Not necessarily compromising any sort of integrity per se, but at the same time it's not going to be kind of that bit of luxury perhaps. This is quite a utilitarian option. Still a very high quality pen, but perhaps not the most impressive pen. As I mentioned, it is 7mm. 7mm is quite standard for ballpoint pens and for most writing utensils. And aside from the fountain pens, some of the custom ballpoint pens with different barrel sizes, they're all going to be 7mm, okay? How do you find the Energel? Okay. I suspected, but there are only so many things you want to assume when it comes to this profession in particular. So let's take a little bit of a step up. This is the Uniball. Uniball is, again, that next step up. You can tell it's a bit smoother of a pen in the mechanisms and in the actual handling itself. This pen again has a silicone grip. It's a little bit more textured. The Uniball is kind of the set professional standard. This is going to be the pen that you see at law offices, attorneys, accountants. This is widely accepted and widely used utensil. Not the most perhaps impressive or stand out, but it is going to be a very high quality pen that is going to serve you well for a long period of time. Again, this is a gel pen. This one has black ink. What do you think about the Uniball? Okay. Still not quite, perhaps, that level of bespoke. Not quite that level of professional. I do have to mention, from this point onward, all of the prices are going to increase a little bit. At the same time, the quality is also going to exponentially increase. So those features that were, kind of unique to the earlier pen designs, those are going to be standard now. So let's talk about the Sharpie. The Sharpie is, again, that next step up. This is a wholly metal design, aluminum, with a silicone latex-free grip that has a very unique and very effective spiral pattern. The Sharpie is definitely going to be the most effective in terms of what you're communicating to the person using the pen or to the person watching you use the pen. This is definitely the pen of a professional. It is, again, a gel pen, but it writes and looks an awful lot like an ink pen. Cost effective, yet just that touch of luxury. Significantly weightier than the previous two options because it is an aluminum body, but a more reliable mechanism overall, and perhaps very importantly, a higher quality writing experience. This is a pen that's really going to feel substantial in the hand. So whether you're signing a document or you have very generously loaned your pen to a client to sign something, or perhaps to a business partner to jot down his or her thoughts on a particular agreement, they're going to be impressed with this pen. This is, again, an impressive pen. Again, a step up in luxury, a little bit of a step up in price, but in terms of cost effectiveness, still a very affordable option. What do you think of the Sharpie? Okay. Wonderful. I'm glad that we were able to find you what you were looking for. I will have, so this is a floor model, one that we use with our clients so that they can experience these writing utensils for themselves. I will have a new package of these procured for you from our back room post-haste. Now, before I do that, one thing that I kind of enjoy doing with clients who come in, they have a particular thing in mind, and then once we satisfy that need, I like to show them some of the additional options that we have available to get the gears turning a little bit, and I give you a little bit of incentive to think about what you're using to write. There are a wealth of options available to you for a variety of different purposes. And if you don't know what you don't know, then you really aren't going to ever get that full writing experience. That is, you're not going to be able to experience the maximum amount of enjoyment and fulfillment that one can from putting pen to paper. That may sound a bit philosophical or perhaps a bit outlandish, given that we are talking about pens, but I find it helpful to always keep a little bit of perspective when it comes to even the most mundane tools that we in the modern day utilize. So, a few things that I wanted to show you. This is a Faber-Castell felt pen. Now, felt pens, we might start to think of the classic Sharpie. This is a higher quality version of the classic Sharpie and a much finer point nib, as it's called. So, you're going to be able to really take down very fine details. With this pen, it is an extra small, so, if we're talking 7mm nib for the previous pens that I showed you and the Sharpie that you selected, this is going to be a 2 or 3mm writing experience. Very, very fine, yet ideal for someone who's making very small, very detailed and precise additions to perhaps an architectural design or a drawing. These are used primarily by artists and those who work with blueprints, but it never hurts to have one of these around, because sometimes when a Sharpie is too robust for a certain experience, a pen like this can really make those very small labels occur without too much difficulty. Now, I'm sure that you saw our collection of fountain pens. Fountain pens are, as I previously mentioned, ideal for journaling, for that writing experience when you want to write, not when you have to write, but when you are sitting down deliberately wanting to write. That being said, there are a few drawbacks. Obviously, these being an ink pen, they do run out of ink, and being at a bit higher of a price point, it's probably ideal to replace the ink well rather than the whole pen. So selecting one pen will really be a long-term commitment, whereas with gel pens being a little bit more cost-effective to procure. If you don't enjoy a particular brand or find yourself becoming disillusioned with the writing experience of a certain brand, then you can pretty easily switch over to a different pen and writing experience. Fountain pens are wonderful for the casual amateur writer, have been used quite heavily in the poetry community, and since calligraphy has made a bit of a comeback by that community as well. Again, deliberate, purposeful writing is where the fountain pen really stands out. Now, one final pen that I would like to show you is a very unique one-of-one ballpoint. Not a sentence that I usually say because, as I mentioned, ballpoints are a little bit more manufactured. They tend to be kind of those mass-produced. But we also have connections with several custom pen manufacturers, and we've ordered a number of these very high-quality, very distinct ballpoint pens. This is certainly the weightiest option available to you, but it is also one of the most high-quality writing experiences you will ever have. Very, very enjoyable. The body, you might notice the interesting pattern in lacquer, is actually made from a pine cone. Very distinct and a conversation starter. So, if you happen to find that you're enjoying the ballpoint pens, which I personally think you definitely will, a higher quality, more expensive option is definitely available to you. We have a variety of these pens in our shop. This is just one of the floor models that we utilize. We have ones with cherry, oak, ash, hawthorn, as well as other pine cone options available. Solid metal design, all of the mechanisms present are metal, and a screw-on cap, which screws both to cover the nib as well as to go on the back. Very solid design. This weighs considerably more than the Sharpie, but that is because it has considerably more material on it. Now, I'm not sure that this will be ideal for your professional purposes, but perhaps if you undertake any personal writing endeavors, this can certainly be an option for you. Now, those are all of the writing utensils that I have to offer you in your specific circumstance and context at the moment. We will, of course, have that Sharpie ready for you when you get to the counter, but please do not hesitate to come back again if you find that you're really enjoying your pen and you'd like perhaps something to use in a different situation. We have, I think you can see, a variety of extraordinarily high quality kind of designer pens available. We also have stationery if you would like to upgrade your office communications at any point. And of course we offer our notary services. So, the full complement of all of your custom office supplies needs can be found right here. Thank you very much for your time, and I really do appreciate you stopping by today. I hope to see you again very, very soon. Wonderful. Have an excellent rest of your day. Goodbye.